imagine?
We don't get the oil, guys. We don't get it, and we don't get it any cheaper either. They sell it on an international market. They just keep the profits. It's an absolute robbery of us.
It has become abundantly clear that the ouster of Nicolas Maduro and the military strikes against Venezuela had nothing to do with fighting drug trafficking and a lot to do with seizing Venezuela's oil. In fact, Trump is openly bragging about it. In fact, Joe Scarborough apparently had a lengthy phone call with President Trump and described what they discussed during that phone call. Let me read you the details. The president's response, Joe, the difference between Iraq and this, meaning what's happening with Venezuela, is that Bush didn't keep the oil. We're going to keep the oil. And to underline his point, Trump said his comments were no longer on background and said, in 2016, I said, we should have kept the oil. It caused a lot of controversy. Well, we should have kept the oil, the president said, and we're going to rebuild their broken down oil facilities. And this time we're going to keep the oil. We don't have enough time to get into it, but maybe look into whether we actually invaded Iraq for oil for us, or maybe we invaded Iraq for oil and for the best interests of another country. But anyway, let me move on. In fact, US Energy Secretary Chris Wright reportedly plans to meet with representatives of Chevron, ConocoPhillips, and ExxonMobil at the Goldman Sachs Energy, Clean Tech, and Utilities Conference in Miami later this week to talk about their involvement in extracting the oil from Venezuela. But it looks like that's gonna take a lot of persuading, if you can believe it. And I'll explain why in just a minute. But first, Cenk, your 2 cents.
Yeah, so we'd like to remind you guys that we don't get any of the oil. They give it to ExxonMobil, Chevron, etc. They charge us the same price. They keep extra profits. So this coup brought to you by ExxonMobil and corporate America just happens to be funded by us, as always. It's extra subsidies for them. The only difference between Trump and Bush is Trump is more dishonest and more honest at the same time. He'll just tell you, yeah, we're stealing their oil. We're just stealing it. And yeah, it's not for you. I'm doing a deal with ExxonMobil and those guys. And he's more dishonest in saying, pretending he was anti-war and not a neocon.
That's exactly right. Now, I want to be clear in stating that oil will not be flooding the markets anytime soon because extracting oil from Venezuela will be extremely costly. Some analysts claim as much as $60 billion. And it would take many years to build up the infrastructure necessary to extract said oil. In fact, why don't we go to this Wall Street Journal report, which I think did a pretty good job in quickly summarizing all the various obstacles in the way of extracting this oil. Take a look.
Within investing for the energy industry, you have geologic factors, you have infrastructural factors, and you also have political factors. Now, Venezuela boasts pretty incredible geology with its oil reserves, but its infrastructure, the actual metal in the ground that you need to mine oil, has deteriorated over the course of time. Meanwhile, its political institutions have also withered. And those last 2 buckets of factors are really what investors are keying in on as they're evaluating Venezuela going forward. Oil prices have languished over the last couple of years, and recently they've been trading south of $60 a barrel. Now, while oil companies are able to make a profit at that price, it doesn't really incentivize the type of massive investments that President Trump is talking about here. And until there is a run-up in prices or some other incentive from the US government, it will be a hard sell to get companies to pull the trigger on massive, potentially billion-dollar investments.
Now, we here at TYT, most of us at least, live here in California. So unfortunately, we are not seeing the benefits of lower oil prices at the pump because our state has tacked on all sorts of taxes that are supposed to help fund improvements to our infrastructure. And if you've been in California, our infrastructure is total garbage. But elsewhere in the country, gas prices have gone down considerably because oil prices have gone down. Adding more supply is not really something oil companies are all that interested in right now because that would lower prices further, which makes it difficult for them to turn a profit. And in fact, I want to go to this next video, which features an oil analyst with ex-analysts. His name is Makish Sadev. And he basically told Bloomberg that Venezuelan oil is actually not really desired by US oil companies. Take a look at that.
This oil is so heavy to produce, and the number of refineries in the US and elsewhere is declining who wants this kind of an oil. We already know Saudi Arabia in the recent times canceled a 1 million barrels per day heavy crude oil project, Safania. So this is not the oil what the world needs in future as we go where we need less gasoline, less diesel. So I guess a lot of hot talk, a lot of, I guess, wrong analysis happening, and that's I wanted to just call out.
And look, it would take a lot of money, as much as $60 billion, maybe more. I mean, these are estimates, to build up the infrastructure necessary to extract the oil, the crude oil from Venezuela, right? And the oil companies are kind of unwilling to make such massive investments into the Venezuelan infrastructure. However, Trump has offered them a solution if they're worried about the risk, okay? This is what he said, and I want Trump supporters in particular to listen carefully to this, because this is what we mean when we say that neoliberal policy expects us, the American taxpayers, to basically take on the costs that private industry should be taking on so they make a profit. So it's, again, privatizing gains, socializing losses. This is what Trump said, quote, "A tremendous amount of money will have to be spent and the oil companies will spend it and then they'll be reimbursed by us or through revenue," meaning US taxpayers.
Yep.
But are we gonna profit from that oil, meaning us, the American taxpayers? Of course not. The private companies will.
Yeah. So we already subsidize oil companies 35 billion a year. It's outrageous. It's like 10 times what we give Israel. Why? They're the most profitable companies in the world. So now on top of that, we're gonna do a war and pay for a war in Venezuela. And even the tiny amount that we've done so far, everything costs money. Bring our aircraft carriers and all of our, half of our fleet there costs a ton of money. The attack we did cost money, let alone the mountain of money that it's gonna cost to actually control Venezuela, right? Look, during this holiday season and even afterwards now into the new year, we're trying to give you guys something back. So Noble Mobile really does it. We can't lower, we've been trying to lower drug prices, trying to lower housing prices, but we can lower your cell phone bill for sure. So if you're paying over $50, don't. There's no reason not to switch. Go to tyt.com/switch, switch over to Noble Mobile. You can scan the QR code there, or again, the URL is easy, tyt.com/switch. Number one, you never pay over $50, so boom, already problem solved. Number two, they give you money for if you don't use all your data, and I use a lot of data and I don't even come close. So they give me money back every month. I only paid about $33 this month. And then on top of that, they're giving a $50 bonus for signing up right now. So I jump on that. You're gonna save a lot of money, tyt.com/switch. Now they're saying, now on top of all that money, you got the subsidies, you got the war, we're gonna layer on American taxpayers rebuild the infrastructure in Venezuela for oil. And remember, Venezuela before nationalized their oil industry. So we could rebuild the whole thing, and 10 years from now, they go, thank you very much, we appreciate it. Now you gotta get out of the country again. And then we got stuck paying the bill. So why are we rebuilding other countries when we should be rebuilding America?
And remember, one of the first vetoes that Trump has done in his second term was vetoing a unanimously passed water project bill that would benefit the residents of rural Colorado. And the reason why he vetoed it is because he was salty over the fact that Congresswoman Lauren Boebert, a Republican Trump supporter, had the audacity to vote in favor of releasing the Jeffrey Epstein files.
And when you say, wait, why are we rebuilding Venezuela? He says, well, for the benefit of the oil companies. But the oil companies aren't my uncle. Like, so what? I don't care if ExxonMobil's richer.
Can you imagine?
We don't get the oil, guys. We don't get it, and we don't get it any cheaper either. They sell it on an international market. They just keep the profits. It's an absolute robbery of us. And the beneficiary is not Venezuela. The beneficiary is the oil companies. And they're multinational, guys. They're not American companies. Their executives, their shareholders, their owners are from all across the world. And they don't care about America at all. They're not patriotic, they're corporate robots.
Can you imagine if, like, we lobbied the federal government to invade, let me just make something. Invade the UK to take out the BBC because they're like a competitor of ours and we want to maximize our profits.
And then we tell people, no, it's okay. Then we'll have to rebuild the British media infrastructure so that we can profit off of it. And then the American taxpayers would say, yeah, but when do we get the money? We go, no, you don't get the money at all. It's for my benefit. And why are we doing it? Well, because I gave a politician $1 million or $10 million. It's insanity. It's insanity. Okay, last thing, guys, on this topic is, look, why did we go into Venezuela at all? First, we thought, obviously, oil's a huge factor. It's the largest oil producer, et cetera. It looked like Israel was agitating about Hezbollah and Iran. There's the speculators, there's defense contractors, et cetera, right? But now I think that since the oil companies are actually not chomping at the bit to go there, and it looks like we learned earlier today that Israel was relatively surprised by the attack. So there goes the two potential largest factors. So I think that we might have gone in for two reasons: Marco Rubio and Donald Trump. So Rubio is desperate to topple the Cuban government. And he's, for whatever reason, him and the entire Cuban American community is convinced that if you topple Venezuela and Maduro, it'll lead to toppling Cuba. And Donald Trump has always, he thinks, why didn't we take the oil in Iraq? He said that many, many times. And I think in his head, if we steal their oil, gas prices are gonna go down and he's gonna be really popular. And he's not educated enough to know that's not how it works. They sell it in the international markets. It barely moves the price at all, except for the instability that it creates, which might move the price up and not down. So he thought, oh, I will, and they pumped him full of information. Oh, you're gonna be the head of the entire Western Hemisphere. And if you notice, last thing, when he did the press conference after the invasion, he talked about the Monroe Doctrine. And then he said, now they're calling it the Donroe Doctrine.
No, they're not.
Okay, literally no one called it that because we didn't know you were gonna invade Venezuela. Okay, so, but what that told me, Anna, is the Stephen Millers of the world are in his ear going, oh, they're gonna call this the Donroe Doctrine. You're gonna be such a big man, Donald Trump. Big, everybody's gonna bow to you. And he's like, ooh, I like that. The Donroe Doctrine? Yeah, I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna conquer the whole Western Hemisphere. And he literally said in the press conference, I'm going to be better than Monroe was. He's such a child.
He's too easy to manipulate and it's devastating.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.